Every NBA offseason, we tend to see tons of major moves made that shake up the entire makeup of the league for the next season. Things change so rapidly in the NBA that predicting how things will even be 2 years down the line is damn near impossible, and because of this, it generates plenty of excitement for the fans even when games are not being played. This offseason may not have the greatest free agent pool compared to previous seasons, but that doesn't mean there won't still be craziness, because there are plenty of big names that could be on the move via trade. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we'll be discussing 5 star caliber players that are currently in difficult situations and could absolutely use a trade to a fresh start elsewhere. Before we start though, it turns out about 61% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first star player that we'll be discussing on this list is probably the most obvious player included, being Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers. Simmons' entire career has been filled with plenty of ups and downs, and he's truly one of the most unique talents in the NBA today. However, with that being said, the reasoning for why that's the case is just as much because of his weaknesses as it is because of his strengths. His showing in the Hawks series in the playoffs was so detrimental to both him individually and the team around him that he has been leading headlines for trade rumors from the second that Game 7 ended. His unwillingness to look for his own shot was problematic, his free throw struggles were frustrating, and his value is not as high right now as it once was anymore. Despite that though, plenty of reports have already come out about teams being very interested in trading for him, and discussions have already begun. This is a very tricky situation for the Sixers, because no matter how fans are feeling about him right now, he does provide a lot of good for the team with his elite perimeter defense and his passing and court vision, and if they do trade him, they need to make sure that they address those two areas with their return value. They also have to ensure that what they get back helps them win now to maximize the title window with Joel Embiid at his best. It won't be easy, but if the Sixers can get back enough to address their weaknesses, Simmons very well may be on the move this summer. The next star player that definitely needs to be traded this offseason is Domantas Sabonis of the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers missed the playoffs for the first time in a few years this season, and while injuries are one of the factors that played into it, there is also another flaw that held them back a bit throughout the season as well. The Pacers have built a team where 2 of their best players, being Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner, are centers, and thus they tried as hard as they could to make a 2-center lineup work. In today's NBA, that's a very difficult thing to do, and every metric and statistic proved that the Twin Towers lineups did not work nearly as well as lineups where either Turner or Sabonis got to play center with the other off of the court. Sabonis is a 2-time All-Star and the team's best player, so this is going to be a difficult thing to accept, but because of this, he also has the most trade value and is the better option of the 2 to trade. Additionally, the Pacers were far better in terms of net rating and outscoring their opponents when Miles Turner was on the court without Sabonis than they were vice versa, which likely speaks to the fact that the Pacers can dominate more defensively, which is how they're built, around Turner, while allowing their guards and wings to function better on offense as well. Sabonis is a very talented player. The Pacers just happen to be better suited to build a team around Miles Turner, and extracting value in exchange for Sabonis is probably in everybody's best interest. The next star up on this list is easily the best player we'll be discussing in this video, being Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard has been the poster boy for loyalty in the NBA throughout his career, and time after time, he's made it clear that he wants to stay in Portland to try to build something special with the team that drafted him. But this offseason, that notion seems to be slightly changing. After the Blazers' 4th first-round exit in the last 5 years, the team as currently constructed is very clearly just not good enough, and with so much money being tied up next season as well, their room for improvement is minimal. Now, Lillard has not come out and requested a trade yet, nor has he himself even made it seem like he's going to. But after the entire fiasco with the head coach hiring process and the backlash that was directed at him and the organization for hiring Chauncey Billups in that spot, there were some visible frustrations with him towards the organization for the first time, and many have speculated that it could be the spark to lead to him seeking greener pastures elsewhere. Lillard is 30 years old, and he only has so many of his best years left before he starts to slow down, so it would completely be understandable for him to want to maximize those remaining prime years, but it will ultimately come down to whether or not he's willing to abandon that loyalty and get a little selfish with his career. The next star player we'll be discussing on this list that needs a trade for a fresh start is Collin Sexton of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sexton has been a polarizing young player for most of his career now, and while he may not be a star yet, I firmly believe he is on his way to becoming one based on his recent production and how much he's been able to improve from year to year. My last video went very in-depth into the Collin Sexton situation in Cleveland, so if you want to hear more after this video, then make sure to go watch that one as well. But basically, the Cavaliers have not done anything to show that they appreciate Sexton's talent and are now shopping him on the trade market for seemingly pennies on the dollar. Sexton's teammates don't like how much he spends on the ball time-wise, the organization does not want to commit to him long-term, and he, as a player, doesn't get nearly as much attention as he deserves because of how little attention the lowly Cavaliers get. If the Cavaliers are so willing to give up on him and trade him for lesser value, like everything seems to be pointing towards, then I hope he goes to a team with legitimate playoff aspirations and proves every doubter wrong. He's a 22-year-old that just averaged a very efficient 24 points per game last year, and he's only going to continue getting better and better, so if Cleveland don't want him, I hope someone else welcomes him in and appreciates him. And finally, the last star player that could definitely use a change of scenery this offseason is Kristaps Porzingis of the Dallas Mavericks. Porzingis is similar to Ben Simmons in that the reasoning for why there have been so many trade rumors about him is because he underperformed in the playoffs this year, and the organization want to search for a better running mate for Luka Doncic to properly progress their chances to compete for a title. Porzingis just hasn't been the same player since the ACL injury that he suffered years ago, and despite shooting the ball well in the regular season, that production did not translate when it mattered the most. He would disappear for long stretches during games, failing to make his presence felt, he lacked assertiveness on offense, and his shot was inconsistent when he did get his looks. Also, like the Sixers though, the Mavericks won't just trade him for the sake of trading him. There have been suggestions of a swap in exchange for players like Kemba Walker, which definitely does not make sense at all, considering Kemba is also coming off of a disappointing playoff campaign and is much older than Porzingis while also declining every year. None of these players are in easy situations right now, and there's no guarantee any of them actually do get traded, but without a doubt, both them individually and the team around them would benefit from a trade if the right opportunities came about. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think should trade for these players. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.